Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Energy Expansion podcast. It feels so good to be here with you. I feel like I start every episode off that way, but last week was our first episode after taking it's very simple calendar math. I don't know the exact number, but it was somewhere in the realm of taking 5 to 6 weeks off as I was on what I was calling a podcast summer break with my family. I say podcast summer break because I was still showing up and coaching one-on-one clients. I was inside of my voice noting apps. I was there for the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy, all of those things. And over that span of time, I was thinking about you a ton. And so today is similar to last week in that there's a flood of really beautiful ideas, really powerful things coming through. And I already mentioned it one time, but I need to give a little nod of extra love specifically to the women who are inside of Energy Expansion Academy. That is where I spend the majority of my time inside of my coaching business in terms of where I'm pouring into people, where I'm supporting people. We have 3 live Zoom calls every month. I do weekly live Q&A sessions, and there is this beautiful energetic connection between the podcast and between Energy Expansion Academy. I mean, they both literally start with energy expansion. So there's that for starters. It's actually in the name. But the way that I have my week set up is that I often will record that week's podcast episode very shortly after I'm with the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy doing our weekly Monday morning kickoff call. Today, that also happens to be the case. And so what's happening is as I'm getting ready for the day, today we're still technically on summer break. My kids don't go back to school for another week and a half. At the time of this episode dropping, they'll have exactly 1 week until the first day of school, which is very exciting. My youngest, who's 4.5, and maybe you didn't know this, but I have a 13-year-old fresh teenager. She just turned 13 a few weeks ago. I have my middle daughter. She was just working on her birthday list. She had me help her get logged into Amazon so she could do her wish list. She'll be 11 in just a few weeks. And then I have a 4.5-year-old who will be starting TK. So this is a really big deal because this is the first year where all 3 of my kids are in elementary school. I wish I could say that all 3 of them are on the same campus. They're not. And I have to retract that. So 2 of my kids, my 2 youngers are in elementary school. My older will be going to the 8th grade. So she's technically in middle school, but the way that it shakes out, I'm like really in the weeds with you now, giving you all these details. They're within the same district, but there's different campuses. And so it's a little tricky, but my TKer, transitional kindergarten, did they have that when we were younger? I'm an elder millennial. I'm 39 years old, but I feel like transitional kindergarten was just not a thing. If you're not familiar with this, TK is when you're on the younger end of kinder. I think they would have just like pushed you in and you would be young for your entire duration in the educational system. But if you're not 5 at the start of kindergarten, they have this subcategory. Maybe it's not new. I don't remember this. Let me know. Were you in TK? Was this a thing? So my little guy and my 8th grader are on the same campus. And then my other daughter, who's going into 5th grade, she'll be right down the street. All of these things, I digress. This morning, I'm getting my little guy ready for preschool, his last week there. And I've been loving my morning walks. And so I'm out for my morning walk. I've got my ball cap on because I'm trying to be better about protecting my face from the sun. The sun is so good, fam. But for someone who was addicted to tanning, I literally worked at the biggest chain of tanning salons in Southern California for almost 10 years. I was one of our district managers. I've probably done more damage to my skin thanks to UV rays than I want to admit. So I've got my ball cap on. I'm letting the sun reach everywhere else. And I'm thinking about the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy. And I'm also thinking about every single one of you here tuning in right now. And when I say I'm thinking about you, the questions that go through my mind, and it's not even questions, it's really this dialogue with the divine that I'm having. So I'm out here, like, just be with me for a second. I'm out here walking. There's this beautiful rhythm. There's the crunching under my feet of the gravel. I can feel the sun. I've got some music in. I'm also listening to some voice notes from clients and hearing what they're saying, but also feeling the energy of what's underneath their words. And I ask myself, okay, God, you might call it something different. I like the acronym GUS, which is God, Universe, Spirit. For me, what feels most true is God. It's me and God. Okay, God, what are we doing today? What do you want to show me? What do you need to reveal to me? And sometimes it is actually about me. I'm a human being. I don't have all the answers. I'm not getting it right all the time. I am far from perfect. I'm a perfectly imperfect human being, just like you and just like everyone else you know. And so sometimes what'll happen is I will notice something that's happening in my own life. It might be in a personal relationship. It might be within a dynamic in my business. And other times I can feel, okay, this isn't directly related to me, but there's a theme with the women in my world. There's a theme coming up with the people that I serve. And so that's exactly what was happening today. There's a blend of these conversations. And so that's what I want to bring you into today. Okay, so first, we're going to start with a really important conversation that we were having inside of Energy Expansion Academy last week. I really want to double click into this. So last week was the first week of the month, and we do an open coaching and Q&A session on Zoom. It's 90 minutes where you can literally bring anything that's on your heart, anything that's happening in your life, anything that's happening in your business, wherever you're needing coaching and support. And one of the women sent me a message beforehand, and she shared something that I was honestly feeling in that exact moment that she sent it, where she said, hey, Dani, I'm feeling pretty heavy. Like, I'm not really feeling like my regular bright and shiny self. So as I'm reading this message from her and gearing up for our call together inside of EEA, I remember thinking to myself, me too, girl. I'm feeling that also. And the reasons I was feeling that might be very different than the reasons as to why she was. And so there's a couple of things, again, that I want to double click into here, because this conversation applies to literally every human being. And I hope it's not all the time. I hope that you're not feeling tired, heavy, off, in a funk, misaligned 100% of the time. But I can guarantee you're going to feel those things maybe once a day, maybe a few times a week, maybe a few times a month. You might even have seasons where it feels like you're in some version of one of those things I just rattled off for longer than you'd like to admit. I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, I've had more of those kinds of seasons than I can possibly count. And so the other thing to note is there's a specific flavor here. So she specifically used the word heavy. And I was feeling my own version of that. You might be feeling some version of tired. Again, I'm going to repeat these for a reason, and then we're going to dissect them a little bit. This is going to change the game next time you feel off. Next time you feel like you're going through a funk. Next time you're tired, heavy, or quote unquote feeling off. That's really what we're talking about today. Because sometimes you might be perpetually chronically tired and call it heavy, or the experience of being chronically tired, which means just tired for a very long period of time, exhausted, burnout for whatever reason, can create a density in your energy field. So can you see how there's these connecting threads? So the first thing I want you to do, again, I'm hoping you're listening to this and you just save this for a different day and it doesn't apply to you right now, but it actually might. And so the next time you're feeling anything other than how you want to feel, I want you to give yourself some time and permission to actually sit with it and ask yourself, what is this? Am I exhausted? Tired? Which are similar but not the same? Is this burnout? Is this stress? Is this overwhelm? I have this unexplainable heaviness, the codes of density in my energy. And then some other words we used were like, I'm in a funk. Have you ever said, I don't know what's going on. I'm just in a funk. I feel off. I don't feel like myself. Yeah. And then something that we might not say as often, but is a very true feeling is misalignment. That's another way. That's a very specific way of saying I'm feeling off. And so she had shared this with me last week. I was feeling my own version of this. Again, the reason she was feeling it and the reason I was feeling it, I can almost pinpoint were totally different reasons. One is not better than the other. There is no right or wrong. It's just noticing, okay, what might you be holding? What might you be navigating that's creating that experience that you don't love for you? And then I can ask myself those questions about my own experience. Are you with me there? And so what I had shared with her last week, which is still very applicable right now as you're listening. Oh, I love nuance. I love nuance so much. There's so many layers here. So what I'd shared with her was last week when I was feeling my own version of heavy and tired. Those are like the two words I would pick up to describe my experience last week. When I sat with that morning, what I was feeling, and this is highly, highly intuitive. If you have not had practice tapping into your intuitive gifts, your own inner standing of how you navigate through the world, this might sound a little cray-cray. You may listen and roll your eyes at me. How do I know? Because before I had this level of inner standing, before I had what I like to call unlocked my own intuitive superpowers, I would hear other women talk about these kinds of things and be like, yeah, really? Okay, now I get it. So I was sitting in the tired and the heavy, and what I could feel around me, around my physical body and around my energy field, was I could feel that there was a lot happening above me. I have my hands above my head right now. So I was like, okay, I feel like there's some crazy stuff happening astrologically and energetically. And there was. And there is, and I didn't have a conscious awareness until I did some research and was like, oh, okay, I get it. And I'm going to share a little bit of that with you because this applies to you. So I could feel there was something up here. I could also feel something underneath me. I'm like, there's something going on with the earth. Again, my intuition was right because after doing some light research, the Schumann resonance, have you ever heard of the Schumann resonance? The Schumann resonance is the energetic measurement of like the frequency of the actual earth, which as people who live on the earth and are connected to the earth in a really big way, when things are fluctuating with the earth, you better believe we're gonna feel it. Like, I feel like anyone would feel this, but especially if you're highly intuitive, if you're highly sensitive, if you are easily impacted by energetics. And the further you go down your own spiritual growth, healing, awakening journey, there's this natural sensitivity that comes online and gets heightened. If you know, you know. I'm like 99% sure that you listening right now, like, you know what I'm talking about. And same thing goes with what's happening astrologically. The moon and so much of what's happening out on an astrological level is what rules water on the planet. So we're talking about earth and now we're weaving in water. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I've heard this many times. Our physical bodies are 70% water. Water carries a frequency. If there is something happening in the cosmos, things are shifting, and we are made primarily of water, you are going to feel that. You can deny it all the live long day, but it doesn't change the fact that it's real. You don't have to believe something in order for it to be real. And so as I was getting ready for leading this Energy Expansion Academy session last week, and I was noticing what I was feeling, and I was getting this feedback from this one individual woman, and then also seeing where the other women inside of the community were carrying this. It started a really expansive conversation, but we were able to talk about the upcoming solar eclipse in Leo, which is happening right now at the time of when this podcast episode drops this week on Wednesday. We are opening up our second and final eclipse season of 2026. And not just that, but we're welcoming in a new moon. Some people refer to this as a supercharged astrological event. With a lot of this stuff, I'm not an astrology expert, but I have to tell you, I remember finding myself sitting at an in-person moon circle about 8 years ago thinking, what the heck am I even doing here? And then when I realized how much we are impacted by things happening astrologically, it became undeniable. And I feel like I should also say this is coming from somebody who has a Christian faith background. I have faith and God and Jesus at the center of everything in my life. And I think that that's important because I get a lot of questions about that. And at the very beginning of this episode, when I was saying that there was another woman, I think I mentioned that there was a woman who came to me while I was away on our recent trip who was asking me certain questions. It was about being a follower of Christ, being someone who is fueled by faith and manifestation and where that all fits in. And it fits in really beautifully and perfectly in my mind and not in a lot of other people's minds. I have crosses and rosaries on my desk, and right behind me, I also have the feminine energy cycle, which talks about energetics, seasons, the moon cycles. So it all fits together just fine. But I want to say that because I know that I attract women who err on different sides of, I'm using all of this in quotations, but like the woo-woo. I don't like that term, but I know that that's kind of mainstream, new age or metaphysical. And then I also have a lot of other women in my space who are also believers. And there is an intersection between faith and nature. There is an intersection between divine guidance and intuition. You with me on this? Okay, we need to have like a whole nother podcast episode about all of this, but I wanted to share this with you because I want my beliefs on all of this to be just like really crystal clear, and hopefully it feels like a permission slip for you. But again, you don't have to believe in it. That's where we got there on our little side tangent that felt so necessary. You don't have to believe in it in order for it to be real and in order for it to impact you. Saying that you don't believe in the law of attraction, which is rooted in physics, like attracts like, frequency can be measured. We know all of these things now. Saying that you don't believe in the law of attraction doesn't mean that it's not real. Like someone could say like, I don't believe in gravity. Hi, you don't have to believe in it, but that is literally what is holding us to planet Earth, right? So there's that component of noticing, having an awareness of what's going on around you. And the other piece of this is a lot of times with energetic and astrological events, there's something known as a crescendo effect. And so there's the pre-energy and the post-energy. And so if you've been feeling off and you've been having a hard time naming it, there might be something there. You might be picking up on something energetically happening with the earth. There's so much happening in the collective consciousness and then also astrologically. Now, taking this a layer deeper, yes, there's even more depth. So I'd shared this with the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy, and all of it is real and I stand by all of it. And the response, one of the responses was, okay, cool. That's all good to know. That's helpful. Noted. We're clocking that. And then I've been feeling this way though for some time. I've been feeling this way for a month or 2 months or 3 months. And so whatever's happening astrologically this week might not apply to me, Dani. Can you help me with that? And my answer was absolutely. And so she said, which I know is such a big thing with so many women in my world, myself included, she had shared, I think there might be something happening with me hormonal. And so I said, all right, love, real quick pause because I have to tell you about something that is truly life-changing. If you've been in my world for any amount of time, then there is a 99.9% chance that you have heard me talk about Energy Expansion Academy, which is my signature group coaching program where I teach the exact tools, rituals, mindset shifts that helped me create a life that goes beyond my wildest dreams and has transformed the lives of hundreds of women that I've had the honor of serving. And for the first time ever, it is now available as a self-paced experience. That means you get to move through this powerful transformation on your own terms, in your own timing, and in full alignment with your life. This is for the woman who's ready to shift her energy, elevate her mindset, and finally become the most confident, fulfilled, and successful version of herself. without the hustle, without the overwhelm, and without the second guessing. If you've been feeling the nudge to join us inside of EEA, then this, my love, is your sign. You'll find the link in the show notes or just DM me EEA on Instagram and I'll personally send it your way. Now, let's get back to the episode that you came for. You could very well be right. If this has been going on for a certain period of time and you're clear on your symptoms, what's not feeling well, and your intuition may also be saying, hey, hormones, let's listen to your hormones. Going to seek support from a functional medicine practitioner who does more of the hormonal stuff can track what's happening with your, I think it's called HTMA, where you send in a hair sample. You can also be really brave like me and so many people I know, send in stool samples and look at what's happening with your gut and different types of things that you might be intolerant to or sensitive to. There's a whole thing you can do around that. And so I said that could absolutely be it. And I also want us to keep in mind that when we're feeling tired, heavy, off, in a funk, misaligned, whatever that might be, that our physical body is a really big part of that. Your physical body is going to be sending you cues, and it's important to listen to those cues because if you don't listen, they're going to get louder. And I'm not a functional medicine practitioner, but I sure as heck have dealt with my fair share of very weird health things, and I learned some of this the hard way. So yes, we are a physical body, but I also want you to remember that you're more than your physical body. We also have a mental body, an emotional body. We have an energetic body, and we have our soul. Our spirit is a part of who we are. And so I'm not saying this to overwhelm or confuse you or fire hose you with information. But again, from experience, if you try to solve a soul problem with a physical solution like sleep, that's not very helpful, right? If your soul is exhausted from not doing enough of what actually lights you up, if you try to sleep that off, the problem is going to get bigger. And why am I giving you this example? Well, because if you're tired, if you're feeling off, if you're heavy, I don't know, I'm going to raise my hand. Sometimes sleep. It's like, oh, I just need more sleep. Sometimes that's going to be the answer. Other times that's actually going to make it worse. So the invitation that I brought to the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy was to look at not just the physical body. Yes, let's look at this, but to also look at the other things that we're made up of. Our mental body, our emotional body, our energetic body includes the space within us, but also the space around us and our soul, our spirit, right? Because if this is an energetic problem, an energetic heaviness, and we're trying to address it with shifting our mindset or changing the way we eat, don't get me wrong, shift your mindset, change the way you eat, but you might be doing all of these positive things and you're like, I'm still not feeling great. We might have to clear something from your energy field. Okay. This is work that I invest a lot in to have other healers help me with this. And this is a huge part of what I do with my clients. So I'm really hoping that you hearing all of this, receiving this, understanding what's happening astrologically right now. We didn't really even get too much into that. Again, I'm not an astrologer by any means, but because I've come to learn how sensitive I am to what's happening in the cosmos, I like to have this awareness. But with eclipse season kicking off this Wednesday at the time of this exact podcast dropping, the thing that I want you to know is eclipses work like an accelerator. Eclipses are not inherently good or bad. Eclipses can welcome in new and beautiful things. Eclipses can also be the catalyst for getting rid of what's not actually meant for you. Eclipses welcome in a sense of alignment. So in the bigger picture, it really truly is all good stuff. It may feel like that in the moment, and then there may also be times during eclipse seasons. I've had this happen. I'm claiming that this won't be my case right now in this moment in time where things unfold and I'm like, I don't want this. I don't like this. I didn't sign up for this, right? So there is a lot that's happening energetically with the cosmos. All of it is for your highest good and for your alignment, whether you feel like that in the moment or not. And you may also experience, this is kind of where we started with this conversation, you may also experience some physical symptoms. You might feel really great and light and energized. You might feel really heavy, really tired, really foggy. Move slowly. Take really good care of yourself. Stay nourished. Stay hydrated. Whenever there's big things happening on an energetic level, I like to treat it the same way I would treat like physically cleansing and detoxing my body. I do all of those same things if there's big stuff happening on an energetic level. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you. Those are some of the big things that have been inspired by conversations I've been having recently and how I've been supporting the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy. This conversation around why you might be feeling quote unquote off, in a funk, tired, heavy, misaligned. And as you can see now, there is more to this than what you might realize at first. There's more to this than what you might see at first glance. And so I'm hoping that today, as we talked about the happenings astrologically and things that were being shaken up with the earth, there's something bigger happening here. So there can be things happening outside of us, but also bringing the awareness back to ourselves and noticing the cues, taking it all as information and making sure that you allow yourself to check in with, if I'm feeling off, is this physical? Is this mental? Is this emotional? Is this a spirit thing? Because you may be feeling heavy from doing too much. You might have too many things on your plate. You might be feeling heavy and exhausted and misaligned because where you're investing your time and your energy doesn't actually light you up. Now, not to confuse you, but you could also feel tired and heavy and off because you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough of what you're meant to be doing. You're not doing enough of what brings you joy, right? That feels mind-boggling. That feels like, what are you saying, Dani? But what I'm saying is give yourself an opportunity to pause, to listen, to go inward, to ask yourself, to ask your body, to ask your spirit. I would go straight to God. There have been multiple times where I am in a season of not feeling great, and I will do some channeling in the form of journaling where tears are streaming down my face onto my journal, and I'm writing, "Dear God, here's how I'm feeling. Why? Why am I feeling this way? Why does this feel so hard? Why does this feel so bad? Why does this feel so heavy?" And then after I get myself emptied out, all of my human Dani feels, I will literally close my eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, do a little bit of a reset, an internal, an energetic reset. Then I'll pick my pen back up and I'll start writing. And it's as if God himself, herself, itself then replies to me and gives me the answer. There have been so many times where I do this whole process and I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, of course I'm feeling this way. And I would have never figured it out. I would have never seen it. I would have never known if I didn't pause for just a few minutes to check in with myself, to check in with God, to get those answers. Get wherever you get your answers from, give yourself time and space to be with that. I promise you're not going to find the answer to a soul inquiry on social media. You can find answers on how to grow your following and how to cook the perfect tri-tip, which I did last night, and I feel so cool for that. But those soul inquiries, why you're feeling heavy, sad, off, in a funk, that's a you thing, babe. That's not anything outside of you. So I'm really hoping that this conversation was supportive and has you look at this from a completely new and different lens. I'm looking at my notes. This was what we just did together today, was meant to be maybe like 15 minutes, and we've recorded a proper podcast episode at this point. So I'm going to rattle off just the last few things that had come through this morning while I was going for my walk, right? Bringing you back into this. So, one of those was I was double clicking in on a very important, powerful conversation that I had actually never had. Like, I've never said these words out loud ever until this came up last week. But this is something that I have had to walk myself through more times than I can count, probably over the last 5 or 6 years. Back in 2018, 2019, I was navigating something known as adrenal fatigue. And that comes with a heaviness and a tiredness that sounds extreme, but in some ways, like it felt like I was dying. It was absolutely terrible. I don't wish this upon anybody. And also, this is something that can run rampant in women who are business owners in their 30s, who are moms. These are all things you can look for. And I was like learning about this and checking every single one of these boxes and needed to redesign my life because of that. And so that was when I was really looking at, okay, am I trying to solve a spiritual problem with the physical solution, or vice versa? So there's a level of discernment there. Now, the last few pieces, I'm going to rattle these off really quickly because they feel good. They feel fitting. And this was the bigger conversation that I was having with God this morning around what wanted to come through. The question is really simple, and I have a few of them listed in front of me, and I want to come back to this because I shared it with the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy this morning, and they were like, oh yeah, this is hitting. Like in the best and the worst ways. So the big question that came through, where are you overcomplicating things right now? Where are you overcomplicating things? Where might you be making things? I'm using things really broadly because this might be something in your personal life. This might be how you move through your day. This might be a breakdown that you're trying to work through in your marriage or in motherhood. This could be any myriad of things in your business. I know that this question was coming up for me today, and I was really thinking about the things inside of my business and was like, oh my goodness, I could see all of these ways where I was making things so much harder than they needed to be. Yes, I know that so many of you listening with me right now, so many of you listening are with me. Yeah. So where are you overcomplicating things? Where might you unintentionally, because you're not dumb. I'm like using this word lightly. You're not stupid. You're not dumb. You're not going to go out of your way to purposely make things harder. And that actually can make it even harder to spot where you're making things harder because it's unintentional. It is unconscious. You made them really hard with the best of subconscious intentions, right? Like, okay, if I'm going to do this thing, then I must have these 100 steps of perfection along the way and da 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 da. Like, no, not necessary. And I'm saying this to you, and I hope you can feel this as I'm saying this to you. I'm saying this right back to me. And some examples that I gave the women inside of Energy Expansion Academy, it's why I don't think I mentioned this on the actual live recording or on the recording of the podcast. Hello, podcast listeners. Hello, people who are tuning in live. It's one of the reasons why last week and this week I decided to record the episode live with other people to tune in before the episode drops on Wednesday. So a few people are tuning in. And if you're listening to the podcast, you can go over to my Instagram and you can go see this like raw. None of this is going to be edited right here on the live component. The actual podcast episode will be cleaned up. I'll click my little AI buttons, the little features that I like, and we'll get all dialed in. We'll add the studio sound. We'll get rid of filler words like ums and ahs, and we'll reduce any sound gaps. And there might have been a couple of times where I said things in a certain way and I didn't like how I said them, so I'll delete those. So it'll be minimal editing. But what I know is I love the podcast. I love what we've created. This is going to be episode number 92, and this makes me so happy. And also, I've been wildly inefficient with recording the podcast. I take so dang long to record these podcast episodes, but what I know about me, and I've been doing this long enough to know this about myself, sometimes you got to experiment a little bit, that if I'm live with people, we're doing it in one take. So the 40-ish minutes that I was here live on Instagram recording this podcast episode is how long it took me to record it. Like, it's not going to take me 3 hours to record 30 minutes, which it does sometimes. And so this morning, as this question of like, where are you overcomplicating things? Where are you making things way harder than they need to be? Where are you adding extra steps? Where are you doing things that you literally don't need to do? Some of us, there's things on our to-do list, there's things on our metaphorical plate that just don't need to be there. Like, we could just take it off and they don't need to get done, and that would be fine. Some of us also have things on our to-do list and on our plate that do need to get done, but we don't have to be the ones to do them, right? We can have, the blessing of having a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. My two oldest are girls, and so girls rule, boys rule, right? I hate to break that to my little guy when he's old enough, but like, girls really are the best, and they're very responsible, and I can give them some chores in summertime. Like, I don't have to do all the things right now. I can ask my husband for help. I have a DKC project management team with a VA, a virtual assistant. I don't have to do all the things. You don't have to do all of the things. And so the invitation today, I'm glad you like that. Yes, we've got a live comment here. Girls rule, boys drool. It's true. It's the truest thing. It's the truth. I love my boys. I love my husband. We have a dog who's a boy, and my son is the apple of my eye, and girls are the best. It's just how things are. And so that little side tangent was so necessary. But yeah, where are we making things harder than they need to be? And then the solution to that, the flip side of the coin, is where can we simplify? Where can we be working smarter, not harder? There are so many things that I am so lit up about right now in life. And even more specifically, on the same kind of vein, the same context around business, so many things I want to do, so many things I'm excited about. And even if I wasn't a mom of 3, there's not enough time in the day, in the week, for me to do everything I want to do. And so me getting to be live here with you today is one way I get to serve my community, and simultaneously I get to record this week's podcast episode. Like, how beautiful is that? I love it. So this is one of the ways that I'm doing this right now, and I'm going to continue to sit with this question, right? And some of the things too that I need you to know, it's a solar eclipse, new moon happening in Leo. Leo is the lion. Leo is the leader. Leo is bright and bold. Leo also has to do with how we show up, how we express ourselves. There's an element of creativity. And so what I just shared with you, I like literally just made this connection in real time right now. I love when that happens, when I'm live or when I'm recording a podcast episode and I'm saying things out loud and these dots, they're connecting in real time. I'm literally giving you examples of where I have overcomplicated my creativity process, where I haven't been very efficient, or I should say I've been very inefficient around expression and the way that that's holding me back. And so this is a really great time. Ask yourself all of the questions I've asked you today. There's no time for me to say every single one of them right now. So I will put them in the show notes and you can grab your journal and you can go through them line by line. But you may even want to take it even deeper and ask yourself questions around leadership. How am I showing up as a leader? How can I simplify the way that I lead myself and the way that I lead others? Those are really beautiful questions to ask yourself. Is there a new way? We've got new moon represents new things, doing things in new ways, things that feel different, a different flavor, a new part of your journey, a new form of expression happening in the energy of this Leo eclipse. And so this is also a really good time to sit with, to get clear on how you want to be seen, how you want to be showing up. What are the ways that feel fun and exciting for you to create and express yourself? All of that is, every single one of the things we've talked about today, we're going to wrap up in just a minute here. Every single one of these things could change your life at any given moment. Like whenever you find this episode, whenever you find this video, these are really, really, really powerful concepts. And the energy that we are in right now in this specific moment of time are really supporting you around amplifying all of this, getting clear on and expanding into who you are as a leader, who you know you're meant to become, who you know you're meant to step into. Again, how you want to be seen, how you want to serve. I'm obsessed with this for you. I'm obsessed with this for me. And this feels like a perfect time to put a little bow on this conversation. And I'm really, really excited about the conversations that are going to follow this one. Again, I received a really beautiful DM about where do faith-based practices intersect in the most aligned, integral ways with things like manifestation or things that might be deemed woo-woo or metaphysical. We're going to have that conversation. I have some very strong beliefs around this. I mean, fam, we could start an entirely new podcast. Like, this could be its own podcast. I've been feeling inspired to start a series of lives about this conversation, but that'll be one of our upcoming podcast episodes. I really, really love getting to hear from you, what you're curious about, what you're wanting to know about, where you might be struggling. Send those to me privately. 1, I want to love on you. 2, if I can create some content, if I can create a 40-minute podcast episode to support you, I'm going to do that. So I love you all, and I will see you next time.